And all right, we're live.
Woohoo!
So this is pretty exciting, right, Michael? I think we're doing our best Regis and Kathy Lee here.
Yeah.
Kyle's like on a beach or something somewhere, so he asked us to take over. So everybody kind of already knows Michael Anschel. He's the genius guy who runs O&A up in Minneapolis. I would consider him high-level expert on so many fronts, from linguistics to build technology. He writes in JLC. You see him write all over the place. So pretty high-level expert here. And then I'm Dave. So I'm just kind of here to try and learn from him and maybe pick a fight. I think this started on Facebook. We were talking about design options, and we try and just deliver one option, and we call that the best option. And that's something that I learned in a sales training with Chip Doyle, and I think it really shaped our design process to be a little bit more structured, faster, more efficient in a lot of ways. And I was kind of shocked to hear that Michael, who is pretty expert in so many fields, the design kind of churns a lot more design options. So I'm kind of curious if you want to walk us through that process, and then we can kind of dig into our ways a little bit.
I'm nervous. You keep using this word expert over and over and over. I feel like expectations have been raised.
Yeah, well played, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Remember the guy.
I don't know who Chip Doyle is, and I feel like maybe I should. And you know, I didn't go through a training process for our sales thing, you know, to have like we have a structure, right? Don't get me wrong, we have a structure, but I didn't get training on that structure. We just made it up. So for what that's worth, it's not an efficient system. I will give you that. Our design process is not an efficient process, but it is different. So we don't do the best. We have how would I describe it? I'd say ours is we only present solutions that we want to, or we build, or that we like. So we're not going to ever put an idea in front of a client that they might be like, "Ooh, I really like that," and then we're like, "Oh, now we got to build that horribly ugly thing." But yeah, we very much start. We like this morning. I had a meeting with a client, and I presented 7 different layout sketch options for the first floor, and 3 layouts for the second floor, and a couple layouts for the lower level in this morning's meeting. And that was our like kind of round 1 concepts.
And how did they respond to 7?
They're like, "Whoa, that's a lot." You know? So one of the things that happens is they definitely feel like they're getting their money's worth. You know, we want to investigate my idea is we want to investigate the idea so thoroughly, so completely, that by the time we get further down the path and we're working on little details, you know, like knobs and door and drawer layouts and stuff like that, that we aren't questioning or second guessing the larger blocks, right? So the massing is done, the flow is done. Now we're working on little details, and we're not going to get stuck with how can we never just considered X. So that because then we'd have to go back in the design and we'd have to redo the whole thing, and it would feel frustrating. So they react overwhelmed, but also excited. I think usually because we will take it into both the safe solutions and the ones that might be really pushing against everything that they told us that they wanted, but that we know it's better for them.
Yeah, and you're kind of showing your work, and kind of showing how you evolve at why one solution you like better, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I like that, showing the work, like math, right? The evolution of a concept, variations on a theme. I try to keep our person, like what I think is best. I try to keep that out of the conversation, so that they can really feel like it's completely them that they're creating it.
And I think that's kind of interesting because it made me think back to, so in architecture school, we would have a roll, like this is a roll of trace, but we'd have a roll of paper, and at least in the early years, and you just keep this roll going, right? And so that would be all your work progressing towards that final project.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd present your project, but your professors would want to see your work, right? This thing doesn't just arrive. You're showing the process of the explorations of how you got there. So I think it's kind of intriguing to present to a client to show kind of the depths that you go into to arrive, that it's not that simple, that it doesn't just pop into your head. Now, you mentioned they feel like they're getting a lot of value. So on that point, that's kind of the other part of it. So how do you structure your design billing? Are you billing them hourly?
Yeah.
So they're paying for all seven of those, or are you saying, it's going to take us 50 hours. I don't know how many concepts we're going to come up with, and we bill you for 50 hours.
Yeah. It's so I feel like I want to ask you, like, why you only go with one, but so we used to do percentage of construction. That's a pretty time-tested way of doing it. But because we felt like there was conflict of interest there because we're the builder, and so are we lobbying for a more expensive project, so we get more fees, and so we just went to hourly. But the client owns the work product as we go. And so like on a project like the one I just described, I think we got like 40 grand in design fees. Ultimately, I forget what that is. It's like 200, 300 hours of design. And then we present the client with an agreement that says, concept round one, we've got, 25 hours allocated for round one concepting. And then another 25 for round two, and then round three, round four, material selections, systems design, conflict, estimating, energy model. So we assign hours to each of those chunks. So this would be that, like, programming phase is, all that, the feasibility study, all that data gathering, that might be 12 to 20 hours or something. So they're broken into smaller pieces, but their deliverable, like for this first one, would be, hey, concepting round one, we got 12 concepts, or we got 13 concepts. From there, we pare it down.
Gotcha.
How do you structure yours?
Yeah. So what you described, I would say, would be the relatively traditional way that an architecture firm that the firms that I've worked for have done it, right? I think that's how we used to do it. We've always done a lump sum for our first design step. So our feasibility study is just a lump sum. And that's probably mostly because I'm lazy. I don't like figuring out how many hours it's going to take for us to do it, because I honestly don't know. And I hate having a meeting and then having to go home and follow it up and put together a proposal while I've already moved on to the next thing. So we made it really easy with just a single lump sum feasibility agreement, and we have different tiers for different projects. So like a basement, I think is $3,500. If it's a 2-story addition, it's going to be $8,500. If it's a master plan, it's $8,500 for the whole project. And we just kind of have a sense of what we need to do to make that work. But the way that process is structured ends up being 2 options. Sometimes it's 3. Sometimes it's maybe 3.5 or 4. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is come up with a project that they want to build. So we're trying to solve what they need fixed and put a budget towards it, so that that's part of the program, right? And so we're kind of betting that we can do it in 2 steps. And 99.9% of the time we can. And I don't know if we've been lucky or we're good, or a little bit of both. But and going back to Chip Doyle, so he's a Sandler sales trainer, or used to be. He's retired now, and he ran a course called customer management for designers, or something like that, something along those lines. And he kind of brought out just present one concept, the best concept. And we had done multiple ones before, and it was usually a function of if we felt like there was maybe another option that we needed to present to them or not. Sometimes it would just be one, sometimes maybe it would be three. But what we found is when we did three, we had three kind of watered down, somewhat half-assed concepts. They weren't completely thought through because we just didn't have the time to do three. And then what we found is if we could focus all of our attention on developing the one concept, we could spend a lot more time and energy on it. We didn't feel like it was throwaway, and we felt like we could present a complete and total package that was easier to estimate because we knew that we were going to wrap the wood joists and the beams in wood. We had a higher level of detail that we could then be more accurate in our preliminary budgeting. We could just really present a full project to them. And that could be a lot more efficient and a lot more accurate. And then the big chip pointer, which is mind-blowing. It's like when you have the question like, well, I don't know if they'd like the laundry room on the first floor of the basement. So you present a concept, you spend all this time presenting a concept of the laundry room on the first floor and the laundry room on the basement, when I should have just picked up the phone and called them and say, where do you envision doing the laundry? Oh, well, we ship it out. We don't even need a laundry room. Oh, great. Well, then I just saved all that time of presenting two concepts. Or same thing with the kitchen layout. I think a lot of things can be solved with a phone call and a question. And what we try and do is not ask them, do you want a kitchen island or not? We try and ask them deeper questions about, do you think you're going to be entertaining? Do you like grilling in the backyard? Right. Trying to get to why we're going to present that solution to them.
Yeah.
And then when we present that first one, we tell them, we say, there may be some things that you hate about this, and that's fine. There may be some things that you love, but what we're trying to do is present a real project. Like this could be your house. And we're presenting it as accurately as we possibly can so that you can give us feedback, because we feel like we can get much more valuable feedback in an hour from you walking through what your house can be, virtually, versus talking about a floor plan layout. I don't think that the regular man on the street who's hiring awesome professionals to make their house great is really that equipped to translate a floor plan into a spatial concept. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to hire us. So
that is true, isn't it?
So we kind of scan over the floor plan just to kind of look at it. But you and I, Michael, we walk into a house and we know the floor plan. Like that's how our brains work. Nobody else can even make that connection. Half the time we show them the floor plan, like, well, I don't understand. Where's the front door? They just.
Isn't that a great one? You're like, they're turning the drawing around because
absolutely. Yeah, because it's not what they do, right? They're busy being, veterinarians or whatever else they do, which is awesome. And they hire us to make it, to deal with their house. So that's why we really switched to going all out on that first visualization package, which is what we were talking about on Facebook, and committing.
And you're not joking when you say all out, because you showed this thing to me, and I mean, this is a full 3D model with soft jazz playing in the background.
Oh yeah, you got to add music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we get kind of fun into the video editing recently, and we don't always have time for that. But and I just did a podcast with Remodelers Advantage last week, where we talked about kind of using the fly-through video tools to present this stuff. And what's so cool is it's already there in the software that most everybody uses. I'm pretty sure you can do it with Chief Architect. I know the problem with Chief Architect is you have to build the model to the level to be able to do that. So we're using SketchUp so we can be a little bit more general and then do the fly-throughs, and then we use the Enscape plugin to do the renderings. And then we just do a little, video editing on our phones and add a little bit of music. And you have something that's kind of presenting the emotions of it. The same way that a realtor selling a house and putting it on the internet, and now they have those like awesome videos and the drone footage. We can do all that in our software to really pitch it what our vision is. And this isn't trying to sell them, a house. This is trying to sell them our vision of what we think their house can be, and really trying to get it from our heads and have them believe it and have some trust in it. But in order to do that, we can't do 3 concepts. We would never get anywhere, and we'd have to charge 3 times as much. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's what we've been doing. And then the feedback we get from that first meeting allows us to circle back and do it again. And sometimes it might be, we don't like that plan with the kitchen over there. Let's explore looking at it on this side in the same light. But 90% of the time, it's, we love this. We just want to make a couple tweaks and look at this.
By the
Which
way,
again, I don't know if it's luck or we're good, but go ahead.
Gerald asked about the name of the retired Sandler consultant. You said Chip Doyle. Is that right?
Chip Doyle. Yep. I don't know.
Amy,
type that in here.
Amy was, so how fully detailed developed with the concepts that you present in the first? Yeah, there you go. Do your typing thing. There you go.
The camera on the bottom of the screen.
Whoa, Kyle's here. Kyle just said Chip Doyle. What? It's crazy.
Oh, that's me. That's right. I'm logged into his Facebook. Ooh.
Whoa. Think of the mischief.
Watch out, Kyle.
Yeah. Kyle's suddenly liking some really strange groups. Like, well, I don't know. So
Amy, go ahead.
Pardon? Amy, I think so. Amy's question about like how fully detailed and developed are the concepts that we present in the first round, or are they rough sketches? That's a major distinction in how you and I present, right? Because I'm going to present like, I don't know, like I do this stuff, you know, right? Yep. And you've got your video layout and fly through, which is super cool. And you know, it's funny. This is how opposite that we are. Like, there was a period of time when we would present round one concepts as CAD drawings,
right?
And the client's reactions it was really hard to manage the client. There would be something about it that they would start reacting to because it looked like it was done, like it looked like a set of drawings. And so now, even if we're drawing in chief, we then trace over all of the computer drawings by hand so that they look like they're hand-drawn sketches, so that they feel a lot more, so they feel a lot looser, you know, so that they feel like they can still make changes and that they are really just ideas. I don't know if I could... You know, something like laundry on first or laundry on second, I feel like that's infeasibility. Like we've already covered that. But oftentimes the variations on how the kitchen connects to the dining room or the eating area, or some really different thoughts that might have emerged as I was exploring it, that I felt like were both really, really solid ideas. The opportunity to present those, you know, before they're cooked into finishes. Obviously there's not a right way to do this, but I would really struggle to take my brain all the way into colors and palette and tile, you know, right on the onset. And I get that they struggle to look at a floor plan and turn it into, you know, something that's three-dimensional.
Yeah, and I think where it comes to kind of colors and palette and finishes. So part of the conversation that we have with them is we want to take it to a level of detail that helps you understand the feel of the space. Mm-hmm. And so if we're going to introduce a backsplash tile, we're going to have a notion of if that's going to be small and homogeneous, or if this is going to have some real texture. And then in SketchUp, you just paint on materials that we use over and over. And that's not going to be what the backsplash tile is, but it's giving the sense, kind of that sketch sense of this is going to be a focal point or this isn't. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how we think about the materials. You know, if we're doing black windows or white windows, that's kind of an important thing that we're thinking about from the interior. We put furniture in there, which when we first started and we used to just put our favorite furniture in there, and then we would do a walkthrough, and the clients who were more traditional hated the furniture. And then they would be like, oh, I hate this project. This is going to be awful, because they were so focused on the furniture being really ugly. So,
yes, exactly.
So but that's a lot of stuff you're kind of pulling from that first meet with them and spending time at their house, them sharing their house or their Pinterest. So you really get a sense of who they are and kind of their style, or I hate the word style, but their vibe, so that you can really bring that to help them understand what that space can be. So I think that's where we go with that. And I totally understand what you mean there, because I think when you present a white box, it's almost more of the sketch form, and it's much more conceptual and just helps them understand massing, plane, frame, and different relationships. But I still think that relates more and more to that our ability to understand those relationships and how it translates to the final built space, that maybe they don't have the ability to do so, where it's a purple blob and a yellow blob. So I've pushed much farther away from the conceptual, for better or for worse. In fact, we presented kind of a diagrammatic sketch in one of the presentations, and they kind of came back to it in the end, and they're like, "That was beautiful. We absolutely love it. I have no idea what that means." I was like, I'm just trying to kind of show them the work. This is the main axis, and this is a relationship here. But they kind of already trust us to
know that you're getting that stuff right.
Know that, right? That's what we do. Is how I'm thinking about it now. So I don't know. I think it's always worth trying, seeing if you can nail it with one concept. If they're like, well, where are my other concepts? You can have that conversation. But it's worked for us really well. And then we get a lot more meat on the bone. And then with that feedback, we circle back on the second one. And on that second one, our goal is to say, this is what we're going to take into detailed design. This is the scope of work and the general feel, and we've nailed the budget. And sometimes they're like, well, I just don't think we're there yet. And we say, okay, what do we need to do to get there? And then we work through that third one.
So do you feel like the clients see it as a very collaborative process, or are they very kind of hands off and just waiting to be impressed by what you bring back?
I would say it's pretty hands off, and they're waiting to be impressed, which is interesting. Because I think we always kind of visualize it being really, really collaborative in a lot of ways. I think as it gets into detailed design, that's where that happens. But I feel confident, and I think our clients trust us, that they're like, show us what you got. I mean, I had a sales call the other day where they were asking me, they're like, we have all these ideas, but are you guys maybe going to present something different? I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. Like, we want to take you already have your idea. Right. So why do we need to do that? Why don't we come up with something different and then see how they all kind of jive? And here's another problem I have with multiple concepts is they're going to...
By the way, you're making a really good case for your single. I feel like I'm getting just smoked here. I just, but that's how we do it. That's not a very good...
And I'm always up for changing our process, and that's the fun part of owning a small business, is we can always kind of shift and make things better. But I'm curious, do you ever run into the issue where you present 3, 4, 5 concepts and they pick the best thing from each one that they like, and then you have to Frankenstein it, and it doesn't work because it doesn't have the continuity?
I love that you brought that up. So the Frankensteining, that's actually part of our sales pitch. that rather than draw every iteration, I'd have 300 variants if I did that. But there are certain concepts that we can do mix and match, and there's certain concepts that we won't. And that gives us the freedom then to draw, like I might draw a really weird kitchen with some like really cool shifting type stuff. And I've put a lot of, that's how that kitchen resolved. And I've got these other spaces here, and I came up with like 3 ways to organize the mudroom, office, half bath configuration, right? Depending on, how they actually want it to flow in real life. And I know that the kitchen is a big departure from what they asked for. So I've also drawn another concept that has, the kitchen as they described it, with its, and I'll intentionally maybe make it look flawed, like some things too close, so that they're like, oh, that feels cramped now. I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. But then say, look, here's I drew the kitchen that you described. And here's how it fits. I also drew this awesome kitchen, and you can just swap the two out,
Right.
that space, in the hopes that maybe they'll say, cool, yeah, let's try this one. I did one just recently where, I solved the problem for them, solving for X, da, da, da. And I was looking at it and I was like, man, I really want to put the kitchen on the other side of the house. And so I threw in the mix a version of the floor plan that had the kitchen on the opposite side of the house, and I didn't draw the rest of it in, because I knew that we could grab a bunch of other elements and sort them out and fit them in there. And sure enough, they saw, they went through the stuff that went through like 6 or 7 different variations, and we got to this one, and they're like, wait, what is this? This is totally different. And then after about 15 minutes, they were like, wait a second, I think we might like this one. And sure enough, like 3 days later, they called up like, all right, moving the kitchen to the other side of the house. So I feel like I might have lost that opportunity. Either I've had a client who was like, you didn't listen to what I asked for, or I would have missed the opportunity if I had gone with like, and I don't know, maybe I struggle with knowing which one is best. Maybe that's my internal, battle.
I think that's always a hard part, and I think our design collaboration happens internally amongst our team. And that's always kind of part of it too, right? And I remember working for the first firm I worked for, and I was young and I had all these grand ideas, and I always wanted to present my idea as well, right? So the partner who I worked for would present his idea, and then we present my idea, and you present all these different ideas, and then they chose mine, right? And it's like nobody wins in that situation. Right. So, and we still do it internally too, where we go down a direction, and Sarah runs our feasibility design. She starts it. I'll sketch some stuff out, but for the most part, she's kind of running and developing the ideas. And then sometimes I'll swoop in and be like, I don't know, I think we should do this. And then we change it, and then we present it to the clients, and then they're like, what if we did this? And then it was Sarah's original idea. So I think all of it is just kind of practice and getting more and more comfortable and confident in what you're presenting. But so I guess to that point, we do multiple concepts in our process. We just don't present them all, but we can talk about them as well. So sometimes
internal.
Yeah. And even when we're presenting it, we might even say, we looked at moving the kitchen over here. We thought maybe there was something there, but we ran into this, and this was going to be a challenge, and it was going to make this not work. So that's how we evolved here. And then I don't have to go through the pain of showing them a fully developed concept of something that's bad, right? Or maybe doesn't work as well. So, we're usually able to solve that with a sentence. Oh, Kyle's here now.
He wants to help host for the last 2 minutes of the show.
We are good, Kyle, I think.
Eating Jimmy John's, chilling and listening. It's so easy to sit back and listen. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. So what else? I mean, I'm intrigued by my passion is trying to make good design more accessible for more people. And I've always felt like the traditional design process just takes forever and either costs a huge amount of money, or the architect is going out of business because they're whittling their fee down to 50 cents an hour and all the time that they're spending. So I think being able to package it in something a little bit more palatable cost-wise and presenting a really good solution, the way we're doing it right now seems to work pretty well. Now you're getting $40,000 design fees, but not everybody can do that or would be willing to do that.
No, but I think like you, our feasibility studies are going to be in that $2,500 to $3,500. Typically, that's checking for zoning regulations and maybe light structural review. And the kitchen is going to be $7,000 to $10,000 for design work. So I don't think that we're out of
nope, not at all.
But I think the cost side is very similar. What's different, I think, is the timeline, and where we will take 3 to 4 months to design a kitchen, right? You guys are not. You're not putting them. You're doing it in 6 weeks.
Yep.
The COVID days have definitely changed our speed. We're meeting with clients every week now instead of every couple of weeks. And the speed with which we're able to get through the projects is increasing a little, but I find that, and I know we're out of time, but I find that if we go faster than that, we miss opportunities for like subcontractor walkthroughs, for really thorough investigation to make sure that we've really got everything nailed down, but also for the client to digest the project. And I always tell my clients, like, I want you to go and marinate on that, and inappropriate use of a verb or a noun as a verb, right? Because I want them to be solid. Like when we go into construction on this, when we press play, I don't want change orders. I don't want them second guessing thoughts. Like I would rather that we go through that exhaustive, iterative investigation so that they're like, oh, I am done with design. I feel like we covered everything. We drew every possible layout, and we're going to go to, we're going to go on vacation now. You guys go remodel our house. That's what I'd like. That's like the perfect world for me.
And do you do a lot of that? Well, you do that just like we do in that kind of second design step after feasibility. Yep.
That second and third, and getting further and further into the weeds.
Yeah. So I think I've toyed with this too, doing kind of a feasibility light, which is more zoning analysis and some general planning, and doing that for a lower cost, and then having a secondary feasibility. We haven't done it just because it's just inserting another kind of product into our process that we haven't done. But I think that's a good way to do it. And then you're doing more simple plan sketches. I don't know. Most of our clients want us to start tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to start tomorrow. So I'm trying to make that happen. And my worry about the marination is we have projects that go on for...
You've grown this word to marination.
Now it's back to a noun, I think, right? So the problem with the marination is they forget everything that you've been through, and then you have the risk of going back into another design cycle. And guess what happens after that design cycle? I guarantee you're going to end up right back where you were before. And you're just going through another design cycle to reprove to everybody that what you did the first time was right. So
I haven't gotten sucked into that one.
No.
But are you guys hourly on your design, or are you percentage?
We're percentage. Yeah.
So that's a fundamental difference, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Because for you, they might feel like, hey, we can go through this as long as we want to, because we know that we're only going to be spending X% on this. And so it's in your best interest to really, like, let's get through it.
Yep.
Whereas because we're hourly, we will say to a client, hey, you want to explore a skyway to the garage? We will draw it. We're just going to add 50 hours for concepting. If you want to do that, let's do it. So I think that's probably an influence in terms of a book.
Yeah, and we're bad at that because we will burn. Yeah, we don't have anything. I mean, our feasibility agreement's 1 page, our design agreement's 2 pages. There's nothing that really says this is as far as we're going to go, and then we're going to charge you more. I mean, it kind of does, but we never do that. There's no really solid structure to it. So yeah, they can bleed us out on design forever. And when that happens, we just kind of say, we're out of design time. Can we, kind of work through this together so that we can get you your project built at some point? What can we do to try and get it there? And that happens sometimes. For the most part, I think we're just, my big thought is I'm just trying to leverage whatever technology tools we can early in the process to help them understand what we're going to build for them. And that instills trust. We show a feasibility design from a project that we did a couple years ago in that presentation, and then the finished product, and it's like dead on. It's like we're really using that as our springboard to go into production to be able to build what this is. So if you want that, we can do that type of thing.
That's very cool.
So anyway, I'm
so maybe
very passionate about it.
Next Wednesday, we can talk about percentage versus hourly,
Yeah, I would love to figure that one out. And again, I think percentage and our lump sum fees are a function of me being lazy and not being able to really wrangle in and manage the design time. We just have a big bucket of time and we're just trying to get it all done. So it's the opposite of field production from that standpoint. So
yeah,
love to hear how you nailed that.
Well, I don't know. We might have destroyed the show. We didn't really talk to the audience. We didn't take any, we just kind of let them listen to us ramble. So Kyle might fire us, but I think we did. I think we did a good job.
I think we did all right.
Definitely an improvement.
Yeah, it's kind of like we're just talking to each other, and then everyone gets to listen to it. But I guess we can go through real quick a couple comments. So Amy Brown said this has been super helpful. I know there's no one way to do this, but good to hear how much it varies in the industry. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Amy.
Cool.
Anthony said 2 to 3 months for design. I don't know if he's referring to feasibility or detailed design. The whole thing?
Yeah.
Our detailed design is usually 2 to 3 months, and then feasibility is 6 to 8 weeks. So we're usually 5 months as our design cycle is what we're trying to target. We're always trying to get that faster.
Not on a kitchen.
No, it depends. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of just kitchen. It's usually a little bit more complicated, but it might be 4 months with permitting and selections and interior design.
So we're really not different at all. When it's this cake is getting just sliced in a different shape. I wonder. Well, we really should talk about the profit side of design, because I would be curious to see, we're doing. If you're putting in more hours, we could have a competition. Like we could we could have a firm off.
Yeah, I would be interested in that, because I'm, again, in like my lazy and weird way of thinking about it, instead of figuring out like a law firm all the hours and the billable hours and how that all kind of adds up, all I do is I take the total number of hours that my design team can work in a year and how much we pay them, and then figure out how much design I need to cover that plus profit.
See, and I'm all like, want 30 billable hours this week. This week I want to see them, and they have to track their hours, and if I don't see 30 billable hours from a designer, then I'm, hey, what did you do this week?
And we log design time per project, per design phase, so we're able to review that. I just haven't figured out the focus to be able to really figure out what that means. Mm-hmm. But what we do use it for is to understand, like, X project took X number of hours for Christopher, X number of hours for Sarah. I think our fees are working out okay, or there's no way we're going to get this done without it being a loss leader. And then at the end of the day, there's X number of hours that everyone's going to work in a year, and I need X amount of design income, which, roughly works out to about 10% of construction, more or less. That's my dumb, simplistic way.
I don't think it's dumb or simplistic, but it's definitely, it sounds like there's some dials to turn there to get it more. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess to have it be a little more dialed in. I'm using dials when I wanted to say dialed in.
Yeah, I'm going to marinate on that for a little bit.
Cool.
So I think Bailey wants us to share our takeaways. So I'll go first. Mine is basically what we're just talking about, is kind of trying to understand dig into design billable hour fee structure a little bit more is very intriguing to me.
And my takeaway is definitely, can we put a little more effort into a initial concept render that is more than the floor plan sketch, that brings a little bit more life and dimension to it, rather than asking them to make that big mental jump early on. But that would require that I learn some new software and be more, like, put more time into that part, or I don't do the presentation. That's a grand option too.
I like that one.
That's
my favorite part of it.
I don't have a bell like Kyle does. I have my copper cup that I can hit.
All right, so I guess we'll wrap up here. I'm Dave Pollard, and
I'm Michael Anschel.
thanks, everybody.
Peace out.